You won't believe what's been unfolding in the world of R&B legends. For years, rumors have swirled about Kenny Lattimore's sexuality, but now it seems that the truth might just be coming out. And let me tell you, this is how the story goes. It all started when the beautiful and talented Chante Moore, his ex-wife and musical partner, made a shocking revelation. These two were once a power couple in the music world, a match made in R&B heaven. They were married, they made incredible music together, and they seemed like they were going to last forever. But things changed, and their split was anything but simple. And here's where it gets interesting. After the divorce, the rumors didn't just die down, they intensified. In fact, Shante was thrust into the spotlight once again when she appeared on R&B Divas LA. It wasn't just about her music career anymore. People began to ask questions, not only about her personal life, but about her former marriage to Kenny. They couldn't help but wonder, was there more to the story than they were letting on? Now, Kenny Lattimore, known for his smooth voice and classy image, had never been the type to fit into the usual tough guy mold that many expected from a man in the music industry. Some people felt his elegance and gentle demeanor made him soft, even questioning his masculinity. But as these whispers grew louder, Kenny found himself facing something much darker. Rumors about his sexuality that he never invited or addressed head-on. People around him started speculating, and because he didn't fit the typical macho image that many thought a man should embody, the gossip spread like wildfire. But here's where it gets even more intense. Kenny's marriage to Chante Moore only fueled the speculation. They were a beautiful couple, both successful in their own rights, with fans adoring their love story. They even made music together, albums that were well loved by fans. Their relationship seemed like the perfect fairy tale. So when their marriage ended, the public couldn't help but wonder, what went wrong? Was there more to their breakup than met the eye? Some of Shante's own words and actions after the divorce only seemed to add to the mystery. She didn't directly address the rumors about Kenny, leaving fans to fill in the blanks. In fact, when Wendy Williams, the infamous talk show host, asked Chante point blank about Kenny's sexuality, she remained silent, neither confirming nor denying the rumors. This silence in itself was enough to fuel the fire. Fans were left to wonder if there was some unspoken truth hidden behind that hesitation. But here's the shocking part. Kenny, ever the calm and collected individual, didn't fight back. He didn't respond to the speculation the way some might expect. Instead, he chose to rise above it all. Kenny knew that no matter what he said, people would believe whatever they wanted. He understood that the public thrives on gossip and that rumors were just a part of life when you're famous. But instead of trying to prove himself to the masses, he focused on what truly mattered: his music, his family, and his faith. In a world where everyone's looking for drama, Kenny decided not to feed into it. He had learned the hard way that some people are only interested in stirring up trouble, and he wasn't going to waste his time trying to fight against them. He believed in letting his life speak for itself, trusting that the people who mattered most would see the truth. And just like that, he took a step back, allowing the story to unfold the way it was meant to, without adding fuel to the fire. But what makes this story different from all the usual celebrity gossip? Why does it matter? Well, Kenny's approach wasn't about confrontation or denial. It was about choosing peace over chaos, faith over judgment. Instead of defending himself, he chose to live his truth, whatever that truth might be. He understood that people who cared about him, those who truly knew him, would never judge him based on rumors. This is the kind of man Kenny Lattimore is. Someone who refuses to let public opinion define him. Now, this is where the story takes another unexpected turn. As the rumors continued to circulate, Chante Moore herself became involved in more controversy, and suddenly the spotlight wasn't just on Kenny. Let's just say the drama didn't stop there. Fans were soon talking about something else, something much darker surrounding Shante, but that's a whole different chapter to explore. As time went on, the whispers about Kenny Lattimore didn't fade away. They only grew louder. While the public had their suspicions, Kenny remained unfazed, focusing on what he loved most, his music. But behind closed doors, things were slowly starting to shift. As rumors spread like wildfire, people began to pay closer attention to his every move, his relationships, and his social circles. In the world of celebrity, nothing stays private for long, and the pressure began to mount. In the meantime, Chante Moore was quietly navigating her own struggles. Though she had her fair share of spotlight moments, including a successful career in her own right, the fallout from her marriage was far from over. It wasn't just the divorce itself that kept her in the media's eye. It was the fallout from their split and how it seemed to be shaping her career. Some said it was her music that was taking a hit. Others felt it was her image, now forever intertwined with the lingering questions surrounding Kenny's sexuality. But what no one saw coming was how Shantae's personal life would start to play a bigger role in this narrative. Her silence on the matter only made people more curious, and the media, ever hungry for a story, began to dig deeper into her past. Speculation about her own private life and relationships took center stage, overshadowing her musical career. While the world remained focused on Kenny, Chante was facing her own challenges, ones that were tied not just to her past with him, but to her future as an artist. But here's the twist. Despite the mounting pressure, Chante's career wasn't completely derailed. In fact, it was starting to take a new turn. She began collaborating with different artists, appearing in interviews, and getting back to what made her successful in the first place, her undeniable talent. Yet, even as her music began to shine again, the personal questions kept following her. She couldn't escape the spotlight, and her past with Kenny Lattimore became something she couldn't fully outrun. Then, something else began to happen. Rumors began to swirl around Chante herself, and now people were questioning not just Kenny but her as well. The public seemed to have a strange fascination with their relationship, trying to piece together what went wrong. Was there more to their breakup than they were letting on? Was there a secret that both of them were keeping? Chante's silence about the topic only added fuel to the fire. She didn't confirm or deny anything about the rumors, and that left the door wide open for people to speculate endlessly. And here's where the story gets even more complicated. Despite the rising tide of gossip, neither Kenny nor Chante seemed willing to directly confront the rumors. Instead, they each went on with their lives, keeping things as private as they could in an industry that thrives on public exposure. The drama surrounding their marriage seemed to be what everyone wanted to talk about, but the two of them just kept doing their own thing, refusing to let the gossip define them. But just as things were beginning to settle down, a bombshell dropped. A close friend of the couple, someone who had been a part of their inner circle, made a comment that sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. They hinted at something much deeper, something more personal, and it was enough to make everyone sit up and take notice. The rumor mill went into overdrive, with people speculating that the real reason behind their divorce was something much darker and more complicated than anyone could have imagined. Was there a secret relationship? Were there issues far beyond the public's understanding? The friend's comment made everyone rethink everything they thought they knew about Kenny and Chante. What's fascinating about this whole situation is that the more people learn, the more questions seem to emerge. For every answer, there was a new twist. For every rumor dispelled, another would take its place. The complexity of the situation was unfolding in front of the public's eyes, and yet neither Kenny nor Chante seemed willing to offer the complete truth. They weren't playing the game in the way the public expected. And that left everyone even more intrigued. The silence, the speculation, the drama, it all made the situation even more compelling. People couldn't help but feel drawn to the mystery, eager to uncover the truth behind the headlines. But the more they dug, the more they realized that some truths were never meant to be revealed. It's at this point that things take a major shift, and we start to see the different sides of the story, sides no one could have predicted. But to truly understand the full scope of what's going on here, you need to know the history between Kenny and Shante and how their individual journeys brought them to this moment. The pieces of the puzzle are slowly falling into place, but the biggest questions still remain unanswered. As the media frenzy continued to grow, it became clear that the public wasn't just interested in the why of Kenny and Shantae's breakup. They wanted to know what happened after the fallout. While rumors ran wild, neither Kenny nor Shante was willing to give the public what they craved, a definitive explanation. Instead, the more they tried to move forward, the more the past seemed to pull them back. For Kenny, the pressure was mounting in unexpected ways. Behind the scenes, he was grappling with his own inner conflict, struggling with the weight of his reputation and the public's perception of him. The question of his sexuality was something he kept quiet about for years, but with the growing speculation, it became harder to ignore. The rumors about his identity weren't just damaging his career, they were starting to take a toll on his personal life as well. Yet, despite the increasing scrutiny, Kenny seemed determined to continue doing what he loved, making music. His albums began to take on a new direction, more introspective and raw, as though he was pouring his heart out in every lyric. But while his music was deeply personal, it seemed the public wasn't ready to let go of the story. The more Kenny tried to reclaim his privacy, the more they tried to dissect his every move. He was tired of the questions, the rumors, the endless gossip, but he wasn't willing to let it define him. Shante, on the other hand, found herself at a crossroads in her own career. As much as she tried to focus on her music, it felt like the world wouldn't allow her to escape the shadows of her past. Every new project she worked on, every new performance seemed to be overshadowed by the same old questions. The public wanted to know what happened with Kenny, why their marriage ended, and what it all meant for her. The pressure was constant, relentless. But then, just when it seemed like things couldn't get any more complicated, Shante did something unexpected. Instead of retreating from the media, she leaned into it, deciding to embrace her narrative rather than let it control her. She began sharing more about her personal life, speaking out in interviews about the toll the rumors had taken on her, and how, despite everything, she was learning to find peace in her own truth. It was a bold move, and it sent a message to the public. She wasn't going to be anyone's victim. As Shante grew more open about her journey, she gained a new sense of empowerment. People began to see her not just as a victim of circumstance, but as a woman taking control of her own story. Her music began to reflect this newfound strength, and her fans responded positively, rallying behind her as she rebuilt her image. Slowly, the narrative around her started to shift, and people began to focus more on her talent and less on her past with Kenny. However, just when it seemed like Shante was finding her footing, another twist emerged. A former colleague from her past, someone who had worked closely with her during her rise to fame, came forward with their own version of events, claiming that there was more to Shante and Kenny's story than anyone realized. Their revelation was shocking. They hinted at a deep personal struggle within their relationship that went beyond anything the public had imagined. It wasn't just about fame, career pressures, or public scrutiny. According to this source, there were elements of betrayal and deception that had nothing to do with the surface level drama everyone had been focused on. This revelation sent shockwaves through the entertainment world. While Shante had gained control of the narrative in some ways, this new piece of information cast a shadow over everything. People began to question, Had they been wrong about the real reasons behind the breakup? What if the entire story was more complex than they had ever imagined? Kenny, meanwhile, wasn't sitting idly by. In fact, he had started working on a project of his own, one that seemed to be aimed directly at confronting the rumors head on. His next album, it seemed, would be his most personal yet. The lyrics were filled with raw emotion, tackling not just love and heartbreak, but also identity and the struggle for acceptance. In a bold move, Kenny decided to release a series of interviews where he opened up about the struggles he faced, not just in his marriage, but in his journey of self-discovery. For the first time, he began to address the rumors surrounding his sexuality directly. But instead of confirming or denying anything, he spoke in a way that left the public more curious than ever. His words were cryptic, but they conveyed the complexity of his emotions, how he had spent years trying to fit into the boxes others had created for him, and how now he was finally starting to break free. As the months passed, both Kenny and Shante continued to navigate the whirlwind that had become their lives. It was clear that they had both changed in ways no one had expected, and with each passing day, the media's obsession with them grew. Yet, there was a shift happening. The public's fascination with their past was beginning to fade, replaced by a curiosity about their futures. They had both become symbols of resilience, each fighting to reclaim their identity and break free from the shadows of their past. Kenny's new album, which had been released earlier that year, became a massive success. It was as if his fans had been waiting for him to pour out his heart and let them in on his struggles. The album's lyrics were raw and real, addressing not just the end of his marriage, but the deep-seated internal battles he had faced. His vulnerability was a revelation to many, and for the first time in a long time, he felt like he was being seen for who he truly was. The music was no longer just about fame and fortune, it was about self-discovery and finding peace in the chaos of life. Despite the success, Kenny still struggled with the constant scrutiny. But this time, there was a difference. He no longer cared as much. The fame and the spotlight were no longer his driving force. For the first time in years, he felt free. His relationship with his fans had transformed from one based on mere admiration to one of mutual understanding. He had become more than just a celebrity to them. He had become a voice for those who had ever felt lost or misunderstood. On the other hand, Shante had taken an entirely different route. After months of silence, she finally decided to confront the world on her own terms. Rather than waiting for the media to paint her story, she began speaking at public events and participating in interviews, not just to promote her music, but to share her journey of healing. She spoke openly about the struggles she had faced, the pain of her marriage's collapse, and the strength she had found in herself since then. People were captivated by her honesty. She wasn't just the girl who had been caught in the whirlwind of a broken marriage. She was a woman who had found her voice again, who had fought her way back from the darkest of places and emerged stronger. One of the most powerful moments came when Chante released a heartfelt documentary, chronicling her life from the highs of her early career to the lows of her breakup and the journey of self-discovery that followed. The documentary wasn't just about her, it was about the countless others who had been through similar experiences and were learning to rise above their circumstances. Chante had finally taken control of her narrative, and in doing so, she had given the world a glimpse into the real woman behind the headlines. But the most unexpected twist of all came when Kenny and Chante, who had spent so long apart, decided to come together for a final collaboration. It wasn't a reunion in the traditional sense. It wasn't about rekindling their past relationship. Instead, it was about mutual respect and understanding. The two of them sat down in a studio together, their paths having diverged in so many ways, but now intersecting again in a way that no one had anticipated. Their collaboration was raw and unfiltered. They didn't try to make something for the public, they made something for themselves. It was a song that spoke to their shared history, their struggles, and their growth. It was a powerful reminder that even though the world had watched them fall apart, they had also witnessed their rise from the ashes. The song, when it was finally released, took the world by surprise, not because it was a dramatic reunion, but because it was a reflection of the journey they had both been on, separately and together. It was a testament to their growth as individuals, as artists, and as people who had learned to embrace their flaws and imperfections. In the end, the real story wasn't about the rumors or the gossip. It wasn't about the drama of their breakup or the public's obsession with their relationship. It was about two people who had found their own way through the storm. Kenny and Shante had both gone through their own personal battles, facing challenges that no one else could truly understand, but they had come out the other side stronger, more confident, and more in tune with who they really were. The media had gotten it wrong. The story wasn't about the end of their relationship. It was about the beginning of something new. For Kenny, it was about embracing his identity and speaking his truth. For Shante, it was about reclaiming her voice and her power. And for both of them, it was about showing the world that even when life throws you off course, you can always find your way back, sometimes in ways you never expected.